All right, so welcome to another episode of Duck It. Today we have Kunal, the founder and CEO of Luxury Closet. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Chris, for having me here.
So, we've known each other for a few years. We've been in each other's circles and network for quite some time. I've seen Luxury Closet kind of grow and kind of evolve over time. I'm super excited to have you here, and I'd like to start with a very, very simple question. You're a builder, you're an entrepreneur, you've been doing it for almost 10 years with the Luxury Closet. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, how did you come up with the concept? Why the Closet? Why the sharing kind of economy as a business model? What was kind of the idea behind it?
So, in retrospect, I might make it sound, how should I say, like it was a more thought of strategic move. But when I was going through it, it's a bit more, listen, when do you know enough to make the jump?
Sure.
Right? When you make the leap of faith and you just go with it. So I will try to go back into my shoes in like 2010, 2011. So just like quick introduction, you mentioned my name is Kunal, but what is more important in terms of the introduction is I wanted to cover a few things in my background that probably led me here.
Okay.
3 things in particular. So first, had some computer science engineering background.
Sure.
I did that in the US, but I wanted to graduate early because, I don't know, I thought like smart people graduate early, let me graduate early. I was double majoring, so I dropped my computer science major and, I came out of college early. Then I moved to India, and my dad, he gave me, how should I say, what I thought was a great job offer. And then when I realized and I landed up in India, I realized what I had undertaken, what I had committed to do, which was interesting. So my dad was a shoemaker.
Sure.
And he had spent all his life trying to become a better, bigger shoemaker.
Sure.
So he ran a factory and then manufactured shoes. Before I started out, he was like, "Hey, listen, you got to go to shoe school." So I was like, "There's a shoe school?" He's like, "Yeah, there's a shoe school. It's right next to my office. No worry, I'm going to give them a call and they're going to let you right in." So he gave them a call and they let me right in.
Yeah.
And so I started at shoe school, and the graduation ceremony was make 5 pairs of shoes. I must tell you, I made those 5 pairs of shoes, but they were completely unsellable and unwearable. But it gives you an introduction into shoemaking.
Sure.
So I did that. I joined the family business. I did that for 5-6 years, and it was pretty interesting ride because we went from a manufacturer to actually an assembler, and we went from manufacturing leather shoes to manufacturing like sport shoes and apparel, and opening retail stores, and building a brand. It was pretty exciting. Then I went to business school, and then I ended up at Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
Because I wanted to kind of run my own ship. When I ended up at Louis Vuitton, first it was an introduction to the world of luxury. It was amazing. I had no idea people had so much money, and they would spend it on fashion. So that was really like just to see it,
And
up
where
front.
was that? Was that in India?
It was in Dubai.
In Dubai.
Yeah, and again, so like I took one of these jobs, which the pitch sounds great, but it's an uphill climb. So at Louis Vuitton, it's kind of you're never going to make anywhere in the company unless you do retail.
Yeah.
So you actually work in the store. The CEO of Louis Vuitton at that point of time, Yves Carcel, went to business school like me at INSEAD, and then became a sales manager and worked in the store and worked up his way to becoming the CEO of Louis Vuitton. So that was the inspiration, start in the store and learn. I should have paid them. That's how good the education was. However, at that point of time, I had like, let's say 2 use cases, and it was first people bringing in their items to repair. And I would see these amazing items. In particular, I remember this lady brought in a Louis Vuitton Epi pochette accessoire. It's like this small, yellow, very nice purse, where the zip had broken. When I checked how old it was 20 years old.
Wow.
and it looked perfect. It looked immaculate. So I was like, these are meant to last like 20 years. They're meant to be handed down generations. And then the second use case was people would gather outside the store. They would had met on Dubizzle.
Yeah.
And one person was trying to sell a bag to another person, and then they would come in and ask us to check it, to authenticate it. It's not what we're supposed to do. It's not what they're trained to do. But nonetheless, we would do what we could, and then they would go back and they would exchange the money, right? So that was it. So computer science education, footwear manufacturing and entrepreneurship background, and then an introduction and understanding the luxury consumer.
And that's the natural evolution to, I guess, the concept and the business model of the luxury closet. But before you go there, I wanted to ask you a question, because I find this super, super interesting, because I find that anybody who has a foundation in customer facing retail sales, etc., has a leg up on a lot of people, because the ability to build those interpersonal skills, those sales skills, those customer service skills, to me today are immeasurable in value in whatever you do later on in life. Because I find that foundation, because I have the same foundation, by the way. I was in a retail store. I was in jewelry. My first, role was selling jewelry, and then I got into jewelry buying, and then it was a big jewelry house. Burks and Mayors in Canada was bought by Tiffany's, etc. But it laid the foundation of my ability to sell, to build my interpersonal skills,
we're
my
both
confidence.
in the selling business, so we obviously, being where we are, realize how important it is, and we couldn't be here.
Absolutely.
But I think founders need to have. So this goes to like what makes a founder, right? So I think first, founders have core competence. Need to have core competence that plugs directly into what they're building.
Yeah.
Right. But I believe founders need to know the customer, the product, and the industry. Okay.
Yeah.
So knowing those three, then you need to see something that no one else has seen. And when you see it, the vision has to be so clear and so convincing that it moves you into creating it. It doesn't exist today. So it moves you into creating that. And then you have to be good at execution, and you have to be good at other things. And then it's constantly trying to create and deliver on that future that you saw. So that's really where founders, I believe, where founders come from. And then the founder's job is cash culture people.
Yeah.
So it's make sure you have enough money to build the future, because it's most of the times it doesn't come for free. Now, I like the Trello story, which is, $10 million raised and $1 billion valuation, but that's very hard to pull off. So, and then there is culture, because, you're inventing something. So you don't know, you have to learn at the same pace as others. And, one of the ways to learn is bring others in and learn from them. So it really comes down to the right culture. And then, of course, people, because you're engineering a company, and just like code, people that's engineering a company. But yeah,
I completely agree. And the only thing I'm trying to say is that when you have that aha moment, or you have that idea, or you have that clarity, and you figured out what it is you want to do, you spend the rest of your time selling it, right? Selling it as a concept to raise money, selling it to people to join your organization, selling it to basically everybody. All you're basically doing is coming up with a fantastic story and continuously selling it. And that foundation of sales, that to me, a lot of it came from my retail experience. When I think about it, everybody's very different. How I sell to client A or client B or client C is completely different in that approach. And I agree, one of the best schools as well for sales, which was this big jewelry house.
Yeah.
And you're saying, LV, they've
absolutely
figured out that model, right? And then they understand sales at the core.
Yeah. You need to absolutely. However, believing in what you do
gives you that conviction.
Exactly. Automatically makes you a salesperson, because you're not trying to convince. You're trying to convince somebody of what seems completely normal to you. You're just like, listen, the world should be like this.
Yeah. The motivation is sincere.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to get some sort of compensation on the back of it.
Exactly.
Anyways, I didn't want to cut you off. So then you saw this opportunity. You saw people with 20-year-old, accessories that were kind of well maintained. You saw people with Dubizzles selling or reselling goods. And then I guess that's when you had your kind of first aha moment and it crystallized in your.
Well, the
in
aha
your-
moment actually came when I heard about a company called Milan Station. And it was a pre-owned handbag retailer in Hong Kong that went public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Wow. And a friend of mine called me and he said, hey, listen, because every day actually we were discussing about like businesses. I actually already quit my job. And I was like, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to start a business. I had a definition of purpose and I was like, which really revolved around fashion and technology. So it was like fashion. I wanted to start a fashion tech business. And then he gave me a call and said, oh, have you heard of Milan Station? And I was like, no, let me look them up. And then there was the prospectus and I looked at it and I was like, wow, you can go public selling pre-owned bags. And I was like, that's it. I'm going public selling pre-owned bags.
That's amazing, man. And you launched in 2012.
We launched in 2012, yeah.
Okay. And what was the first product that you went to market with? Like, what was the product look like?
So there's two. So this is a fascinating story, and it's part of like the induction that we do when you join the luxury closet. So look, we have two clients, the sellers and the buyers.
Yeah.
And you have to go and convince the sellers first because you get the product, and then comes the buyers. So it started with sellers. And honestly, the first, welcome to Dubai, the first item that I got, well, actually the first item I got, I must admit, was my sister's because she was like, here, you poor charity case, I'll give you my cheapest product. Here you go. Don't forget me one day. So yes, thank you, Kanika. But the first real product was a Hermes Birkin. I met a client and she was like, here you go. And I had never touched one in my life before. I was like, wow, I wear gloves and touch it. First product. Welcome to the Middle East.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And it was a website that would just publish sellers' goods. It was very similar to what it is today, or was it very, very different back then?
Well, the concept has remained the same, right? But at that point of time, it was like a WordPress website knocked together at night. And there was like one developer and me like putting everything together. So yeah, but in essence, it was pretty similar to what we have today. You ask sellers, and this is how the business works. You ask sellers to list their products. Now we sell basically personal luxury goods, which is bags, shoes, watches, jewelry, clothes, accessories. That's what we sell. We also, it's the luxury closet, so we are also at the top end of the luxury pyramid. So basically the top brands. And there the problem statement is that I went to Louis Vuitton. I went to work at Louis Vuitton and my sister calls me. He's like, great, I'm going to get some discount. And I was like, sorry, there's no discount. Yeah. She's like, what do you mean there's no discount? I was like, well, I just found out 150 years of Louis Vuitton's history, there has never been a discount.
Wow.
There would be some employee discounts. And then it's very carefully done, right? But there's no discount. Dubai Shopping Festival, people walk into Louis Vuitton and like, are you on sale? No, man, we're not on sale. So that's that. So, it's like the car business, right? How do you buy a BMW at 50% off? You buy it pre-owned. So it's very similar to the luxury business. So that's why also starting at the upper end of the market made sense. And also being in Dubai, it really is a high-end market. So it made sense. So we started at the high end of the market. Top three brands are Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Hermes. Then there's Rolex, Cartier, Dior. Really is like the top luxury brands in the world and the best items that you can possibly find. Because the closets in the region are the best closets in the world. Yeah. They really are collectors and connoisseurs, and they really know what to purchase from where. And those sellers then, open those closets for us, and we bring them online, and it's a great shopping experience. I've always been
fascinated with the idea because in my mind, a seller who has a closet that has collected watches or accessories or fashion isn't, in my mind, the person that would independently think of going to list their products for resale. And so I was always fascinated how and who this seller is. I think there's a bunch of different profiles of who these people are, but generally speaking, when I hear you say, the region has these amazing closets, in my mind I think about these ultra wealthy, fashion lovers who wouldn't necessarily go out of their way to resell their own goods because financially it's not something that they are kind of thinking about. But it's probably not those people that we're speaking about, or maybe it is. I don't know.
I think you, in that statement, you just kind of pin down the seller persona and the motivations, right? So you said you wouldn't go out of your way, and you're not motivated by money.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it.
Okay.
So first, you wouldn't go out of your way. So you're not going to go to a classified listing platform where you have to do all of the work and people ping you, and then you're like 100 people pinging you every single day for 100 products. I mean, you're going to be doing this the whole day. So we take care of it, right? So we take the items from the seller. When the buyers come to the website, they buy from us. We give the guarantee. We give the service, not the seller. But we also give the service to the seller. So make it really, really easy. So you don't have to go out of your way at all. We make it really simple.
That's super interesting because it never dawned on me, but I collect watches, right? And I probably have too many, and I've gotten a warning not to get any more, I think, at home. but basically there's probably about 60% of the watches that I just maintain, but I don't wear. Mm-hmm. I maintain them. I understand their value. So I'll do the service every 3 to 4 years. I'll go get them inspected from time to time. I'll, go get them polished if they need a polish, etc. But I don't wear them anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's 50-60% of them.
Yeah.
Easy. And listening to you speak, I'm like, damn, I could be one of these sellers, but I couldn't be bothered to actually go and list them myself. So how do you kind of find who these people are, and then how do you kind of go about bringing them on board?
So, well, look, it's a luxury platform, right? It's like 15 million users online a year, like plus app. So this is just like desktop, right? So it is, after perhaps the two malls, it is the largest footfall in the region. So it's like, say, after the Mall of Emirates, and Dubai Mall is the third largest footfall. It's not footfall, but you know what but traffic in the region.
The luxury closet web and app you're talking.
Correct, yeah. So it's the third largest luxury traffic in the region.
Wow.
So when you come there, you come to browse, you come to check out what's happening, and you can start the selling process right there. Nonetheless, we actively go out to sellers, and we introduce our service. We do it in person wherever we get a chance, where our sellers may be. And we also do it, for example, working with influencers and then advertising and so on and so forth, to get the message across that you can sell, and it's very simple, right? Yep. And if you're not motivated by money, that's fine, because also most of the sellers, I believe, that put the money back into their closet.
Yeah.
So it's really like portfolio management.
As in, they sell and then they just go find something else to replace it.
That's correct.
Wow,
that's
amazing.
Correct.
It's a great business.
So it's like portfolio management. And we make it simple by, you leave a telephone number and I send somebody to your house, and then they go over and they do everything. Amazing.
Almost 10 years into your business, I have two kind of questions, I think, on the back of this that I'm really interested to see what you're going to say. What would you, if you could pick one learning that was the most difficult learning for you in the last almost 10 years of running this business, what would that learning be? That was the most difficult thing to accept and to learn. 10 years into running a business almost. What would you say was the most difficult thing?
I think managing stakeholders is a steep learning curve. It's difficult. And you mentioned about the sales skills, but this is another skill that you have to learn, because you become the focal point of your team, your investors, your customers. You're the person who is kind of engineering this system that works for everyone. So I think that is definitely one of the key learnings that you make, and you get really good at doing it. So that would be one.
And you mean because you have such a large breadth of stakeholders, be it colleagues, be it sellers, buyers, be it investors.
You have to deliver for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people to deliver for.
A lot of pressure.
That's a lot of, yes, of course, but
big responsibility.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely one. The second I would be is engineering. Like, I think
You mean technically to actually build the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Technically, to build the platform. I remember meeting Ronaldo from Zook/Amazon, and then at that point, I don't know, like we're like 50 people. He's like, hey, listen, I was like 50 people. He's like, how many engineers? And I was like, I don't know, like 10, 15. He's like, you should turn the ratio opposite way around. And I was like, that's a really good idea. I should do that. I should turn the ratio opposite way around.
Have more engineers than anything else.
I wish. Now that's very difficult, but you get. I mean, you get what I mean, right? I mean, I think so many problems can be solved by engineers. It's not even funny. Like they just like go in and then you just throw problems at them, and they just go around building it and checking data, and then building it, checking data, and building. So they're just kind of, and it's a very iterative way of building. You know, it's. I try to explain it as. Usually I try to explain it as this. Like imagine you have a vision and you want to build what would be for you the Burj Khalifa, which is like in terms of pinnacle of of accomplishment in your own field.
Sure.
Okay, so just let's translate this example to that. So it requires quite a lot of people and quite a lot of talent, I imagine, to build something that great. While if you're building a building, you start out by saying, listen, 110 floors, here's the requirements, here's the occupancy mix, here's kind of you plan all of that in advance, you make a structure, you start selling it, and then you start building it. So you plan everything and you start building it. In the startup world, it's really quite different. You say, listen, I have a vision, it's a building, let's say, which is more than 100 floors.
Yeah.
You go, wow, more than 100 floors. Yeah, it's more than 100 floors. It could even be 200 or 300. But let's start with 100.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, in the US, people have built 300 floors. We can do it too,
yeah.
But it's 100 floors at least. Yeah. Sounds great. So what's the occupancy mix? We've planned it. Here's what the model looks like. It's 50% businesses, 50% residential.
Sure.
Sounds great. We've even started building it. We have 3 floors ready. What do you mean you have 3 floors ready? Yeah, we have 3 floors ready. Wait, you don't know how tall the building is going to be.
But you have 3 floors
But
ready.
You already have 3 floors ready. Yeah, we already have people in those 3 floors and they've already occupied it. It's great and they're super happy.
Yeah.
They're asking us to build even more because they want more floors. And that's how you do it. You kind of vision the general shape and then you start building it. Of course, this is not going to work at all for building actual Burj Khalifa, but this is how you engineer.
And the foundation might not be able to withstand the 300.
Exactly. Which is where engineering comes in.
Yes.
So now the question becomes, how much are you going to allocate to foundation? Who is going to...
Which is a very difficult thing to do.
Which is very difficult.
To juggle, especially in the beginning,
exactly.
Right? But it kind of sounds like what you're saying is your most difficult learning was to learn to be more product led than to be kind of operational or marketing led.
Absolutely.
In that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's so easy to say in retrospect, right? I think
course.
When you're in the heat of the moment and you're like, okay, I need to generate more revenue or I need to have a bigger OPEX or cost, just like it's in retrospect. But I agree with you.
But you burn so much money. Like it's so wasteful because, you do things first that it's out of order. Like, I mean, you do things first. It's saying, listen, we're going to scale the customers in this country, even though the product is not ready. And even though, so some of that is good because, you want to put a raw product out there and let the customers tell you how to build it as well. Right.
But there is but it's cat and mouse all the time, right? It's like, it's like, you don't know, like you're going to burn a lot of money to acquire customers that will churn because the product is crap, but you needed to burn a lot of money to acquire customers because you needed to prove that the business model works.
Exactly. So that's catch-22 of the startup world.
But I can imagine that being, especially in your business, in a marketplace business, that, it's a day-to-day struggle. I'm sure. I can imagine how complex the product must be and how much it must bring ease to the flow of any stakeholder if the product investments are made, but if they're not, I can see how. So,
but on the opposite hand, now we've had some time.
Yeah.
So for the first 4 or 5 years, we really were literally bootstrapped. MEVP funded us, and they just like, hey guys, just keep on building, just keep on building, just keep on building. This ecosystem is going to open up, And then in 2014, 2015, more VCs started to appear, and we raised our first like proper round in end of 2014. So that means in 2015 we started to kind of engineer this platform. So we chucked everything we had before, and we started to re-engineer it.
And so, looking at your organization today, what is your ratio of engineers to rest?
20%.
20%.
Yeah.
And how many people does that represent, roughly?
About 30 people.
Oh wow, it's still a big team then.
It's a big team.
Wow. Okay, and now on the flip side, so those are the most difficult learnings. What were the biggest surprises, pleasant surprises in the last kind of 9 years?
Ooh, that's a question no one asks.
Yeah.
What a great question. I think the pleasant surprises is like when you go somewhere and people know what you do and they really love it. I think that's always a pleasant surprise. I'm just constantly, I would not say I'm a negative person. I'm actually a very optimistic person, but I constantly beat myself about, the small little problems that still need to be solved.
Yeah.
The other way to think about it is, you're climbing a mountain, you climb it halfway. You're like, hey, would you at that point, are you going to say, hey, I climbed the mountain halfway. This is so amazing. Or you say, oh crap, there's that much there to go. What are we going to do now? So the mind frame is always climbing, and the one front is like, don't look back, look front. So my frame of mind is always, wow, you're happy because you know what? I don't like where we are today, because where we need to be is multiple times better. So that is very nice to hear people that actually know about you. And of course, it happens much more and more. Of course, people know about you now. So that's one. Second is when that happens with investors, So with investors, of course, you're always pitching. You're pitching to people who, may not understand the technology business, may not understand marketplaces, even if they understand technology. So you have to tell them from scratch upfront everything. But the second surprise is when you go into an investor call and they just go and they're like, I can't believe what you've built. I can't believe you built it in this much. And listen, come on, you should aim for much higher. And you're like, hallelujah, this is great. So I had one of those calls last week, and I was like, I ended up telling this person, I love you already. Now, that's not how you pitch to an investor. Sure. But I was like, I love you. This person wasn't taken back at all. She was totally like, yeah, that's exactly what we're here to do. So that would be the second one. So it's basically, long story short, is like, it's people appreciating, the end product of, not end, but where it is today. And, they appreciate the complexity and how it works for today.
I'm going to take a different gear now. I'm going to ask you a bit of a personal question. And I wasn't going to ask you this. I didn't, but listening to you speak, I have to ask. I've come to the conclusion, I've been around entrepreneurs and startuppers and builders and founders my entire career. I've only been in startups. It's the only thing I've really associated to. I think I've been in startups for 14 years now. 14 from my first company to I launched 2 of my own companies, and then to different startups I was a part of, to now DUCKLIFE, etc. And all the people I've been around, and including my own motivations, I've come to the conclusion that there's always an underlying kind of subconscious motivation that people don't talk about. The people that succeed are not just motivated by their mission and their vision, but there's always a personal fire inside them of something that they want to accomplish for a personal reason. And I've asked a few of our guests about this, but I know for sure of all the hyper successful startuppers that I know, there is a personal motivation of either, looking for approval from mom and dad, or a told you so kind of motivation, or a comeback story, underdog story that was like, see, I can do this, right? And so I wanted to ask you, I heard about, your beginnings in the shoe factory and in your family and stuff like that, about your kind of working career in terms of the journey of your business today. Do you think, would you agree that there might be a personal motivation for you as well as whatever
For
the mission of the
sure.
organization is?
No, of course it's a personal motivation. Otherwise, you will not last.
Absolutely.
You have no option to be not motivated, or it doesn't matter how you feel, to not show up, to not give motivation to others. And this is one of those challenges about the business is it doesn't matter how bad of a day you've had, how much bad news you've had today, but you just cannot reflect that onto your team.
Absolutely not.
Sometimes sometimes you may get upset because of execution issues and those things.
Sure.
That's normal. So some of that is a bit normal. But yeah, for sure, of course, that's true. I think I would go back again to my family business. So my dad was an entrepreneur, and he started a company with a few people, and he realized he was the one working the hardest and the others weren't working at all. So he's like, listen, I'm going to go it my own way. And literally he said, just give me those 2 machines and I'll just leave. So he took 2 machines and he set up his own little shoe manufacturing company, and then he climbed up from there. So having seen him do well and weather all that he weathered, I think that was of course motivating to do the same. The second is he also brainwashed me.
All parents
Brainwash you. Yeah, it's true. All parents brainwash you. He brainwashed me into becoming an entrepreneur, because it would be like, Dad, we're going on vacation. Yeah, let's go in the car. Why don't you have a seat with me in the front? Sounds good. And then he would just drive and say, that's that factory that builds this. It's owned by this person. He has X amount of factories. His revenue numbers are this much. The whole way, he'd just know every single factory. Like he had just pre-planned all of this stuff. But he would just be driving and telling me how cement works and how this works, and that's of this factory and that this factory, and this area builds this and that area builds that. That's what it was for like as far as 10, 15 years, no? So that was that.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and then of course, so I think, what was it? So when you're between the ages of 15 and 18, I would say, you kind of come up with what you want to do, and those motivations kind of...
The most formative in terms of...
Yes, exactly, as well put. So for me, it was like reading, I think, Bill Gates and The Road Ahead, and I thought that was just like incredible. So I wanted to become a mini Bill Gates or whatever, like just be a tech entrepreneur. So back then, I knew from then it was like, I want to be a tech entrepreneur. It's pretty simple. And
today, is your father kind of abreast and aware of what you've built?
Yeah, of course. He was the first angel investor, right?
Really?
So yeah,
Amazing.
he was like, he was super pro, and my wife as well.
Yeah.
I have to say, my family and my family has been very supportive. So yeah, absolutely. He was like, listen, you should go build your own. And I was like, that's hard. He's like, yeah. But
I think that's incredible, because it's like, if you have that in your family, you have that blood in your family, that's amazing. I mean, but it's also, it also puts a pressure on you, right? So it's like, if my father did it, then I have to do it. Is it to some extent? Is there some sort of approval you think that you've
No, not at all.
No?
Because it was like it's a pretty weird family. It's like, I called them, I said, I'm quitting my job. And they're like, great. So that's not every single family. They're like, great, that's great.
Amazing.
He's like, don't worry, just do something, you'll be successful. Don't worry. Just do it.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I wanted to ask you a question about 2020. We just went through one of the most economically difficult kind of chapters in human history, as well as kind of a health, and safety scare around the world. And I'm really curious about your business. One being luxury, and how it's impacted your business, and two being kind of the marketplace nature of what you've built. For us as a business, as with a lot of businesses, it was a super challenging year. We adapted and we came out stronger for sure. But I'm really curious in terms of how you would describe its impact on your business.
Well, I would overall describe it similar to yours, which is we came out stronger. So went into like this roller coaster and then came out flying actually. It was pretty interesting year. So I see myself like, I think like early March or so, and this coronavirus is spreading. And then we're like, listen, we should act a bit early. Let's split the teams into A, B. Let's split ourselves into A, B. So if something happens, at least the other team can work.
Sure.
Then, of course, the lockdown started. And I have to say, like, we were lucky to be in the tech sector in Dubai because we could operate. We could run our warehouses. At some point in time, we were like, listen, are we allowed to drive outside? The cameras are flashing. We called the police and we're like, listen, dear police, we're a startup. We need to fulfill our orders to our customers. We need to go out there. But these lights are flashing us. And they're like, don't worry. We're like, wow, this is amazing. Can you give us that in writing? She's like, just don't worry. Just do what you guys need to do. Be careful.
Yeah.
So this is not verbatim, of course, I'm making it up.
Yeah.
But that was it. So went, kept operating. Of course, it was very similar to, I'd say, other startups. We put a contingency plans in place, and we started executing them depending upon what market would happen. We were in action, A, B, and C. At this point of time, very wise board, great team. Amazing team. And they were just completely determined to keep us running and come out stronger. In terms of the luxury sector, we looked at the luxury sector and look, economic downturn, luxury sector shrinks a bit.
Yeah.
The question was what would happen to resale? Because theoretically, if people are value conscious, they should buy from you more or sell to you more. It's all about being value conscious. Now, we'd seen the upside when the market is good. Things were good for us. So the question would be, how would it be? Theoretically, it should be fine.
Sure.
But we didn't really want to go and test it out. But we had to.
Yeah.
We looked up again that e-commerce grows and, resale should grow. But that's pretty much what happened. 2020, we saw us growing really high percentage points. We didn't hit the 100% mark, but we were nearly there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So it went super well. But we also saw the same effect on other marketplaces, tech business in general, but also resale marketplaces.
Yeah.
One of the big things that happened is that the customer started thinking more about sustainability across the world.
Yeah.
And that went up in the decision-making criteria when it came to luxury purchases. And I think that effect is forever. We've just fast-forwarded to the future. And that is very, very important because sustainability is another angle we're not talking about, but it's very important because Absolutely. I just don't see us continuing the way we're continuing. I think we're going to implode.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that became very important. And then we had, the Poshmark IPO, which is a resale marketplace in the UAE. They're in the US, trading at $5 billion. We had the Real right before the pandemic. They're trading at $2 billion plus. ThreadUp filed for an IPO. We had 2 more unicorns, Vinted, Vestia Collective most recently. So there was also more proof that these businesses are very resilient and here to stay.
It's so interesting to hear you say that because even the big marketplaces or online e-commerce and luxury kind of brands, like even brands like Farfetch, for example, which is a marketplace to some extent in its model, they grew their vintage section like crazy in 2020 when you look at the assortment, you look at the growth, but they haven't. I never really realized, but they are essentially competing with you guys as well in terms of that space, and the way they positioned it also was kind of the sustainability angle. But it never dawned on me that that's basically one of the key drivers of this movement as well, is that, you're right, like manufacturing and creating and just endless consumption of new goods is not sustainable in any future circumstance if you think long term, and reselling of anything is definitely what needs to happen. It's funny, I never really looked at the business that way, but you're absolutely right. One of the biggest value propositions is sustainability if you care about your planet, right? Super interesting. In terms of markets that you operate in today, you're generally still focused on the region. Is there an ambition to be a global brand?
So we already are to quite an extent.
Okay.
And for example, in the last 12 months, we've had buyers from 85 countries.
Oh, wow.
And sellers from 55 countries. That's a large number, exactly. So it is pretty international because the proposition is.
Of course.
The luxury closet is one of the few destinations in the world where you'll come in and you'll see, 50,000 unique items off the top brands. So it really is the place to shop. Of course, being in Dubai, we're heavily concentrated on the region.
Sure.
However, this is very much true for our sellers and less true for our buyers.
Of course.
So as I was mentioning, the region has the most amazing closets. The strategy is really be the go-to place for sellers in the region. But in terms of the buyers, once we get these items online, they are wanted the world over. So 40% of our sales comes outside of the region and is growing faster than average.
Okay, super interesting. So for you guys, I mean, it's just the nature of where the demand will come from, but essentially luxury goods and what you're selling is open to the entire world. I mean, anyone can go on your website in any country. Yeah. Absolutely, right? And buy, and it'll get shipped to any location today.
Correct.
Wow. Final question. What does the future of the luxury closet look like in terms of, for you on a personal perspective? Is it an exit? Is it a going public? You're speaking about going public a lot. I'm assuming for you, is that kind of the ambition of where the kind of first finish line of chapter 1 will be? I mean, last week, Rami mentioned that they were going public. Another MVP story.
Amazing.
But what's the ambition? What does the first chapter look like?
So for us, Eddie and Ellie, that's really brilliant. It's a fantastic job done. Amazing company and Absolutely. Amazing founders and amazing team. So that's great. That, of course, gives you motivation. You're like, wow,
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible. We don't have to be the first. So being the second or third is a bit easier. So thank you for paving the way. So yeah. So look, I mean, if you're a business that is funded by institutional investors, they're going to exit at some point of time. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily all together, not to get into the complexities of this, but sure. But I mean, that's what they build startups for, that there needs to be some kind of a timed exit event where sure. X amount of them could get their much more than the money back, of course. That's sure. the VC business. So that needs to happen. Now, I think that the potential is quite large, and seeing all of these IPOs in the US and also seeing regional successes, it's easier to talk about big ambition, because if you talk about it, when no one has done this, it seems less reasonable, it seems less plausible. People rather talk about something more smaller, but it is possible. So I think that we have the potential to be the second largest, luxury consignment company in the world. So basically, outside of the US, to be number one. In the US is the real, and we split it by peer-to-peer players, where sure. buyers and sellers transact themselves. Normally, they are low average order value, but on the luxury end, you need to provide full service, so Absolutely. We're high average order value. So that's how it works. So that's the dream. And who knows? I mean, who knows what this exit scenario looks like? However, sure. Founder exits are another topic, and I really like the examples of Kareem and Amazon, and sure. There's so many companies like this. The late Tony Heish at Zappos. Yep. So they keep building because there's the mountain just keeps getting bigger. You can build another 100 floors. You're like, I've built 300 floors. But you know what? You can build another 300. It's great. Let's build it.
And so you're not going to decide on what the ideal outcome is. I think for you, it sounds like the journey is still kind of the journey, and whatever best opportunity comes and whatever manifests, then that will be the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? We'll see what happens. We'll take it as it comes.
Amazing. Thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Great to have you on the show, and hopefully we'll have you again when the chapter reaches an exit that we can talk about.
Or we flip the page on the chapter, or so on and so forth. But thank you for some amazing questions. Thank you for a very comfortable couch where, you can speak your mind. And
you don't have to move. You can hang out for a bit. If you
want to I think I might just stay here.
Thank you very much, Kunal.
Thank you.